everybody. This is Rachel Treese, the CEO of FTS Global, and I am honored today to have Serge Krancenblum with me today. Serge is the Group Executive Chairman of IQ-EQ, and we are in the middle of the COVID-19 crisis. And Serge, believe it or not, is the first person I've come into contact with, although not contact with, virtual contact with, who has actually been through the COVID-19 virus. How are you, Serge?
Hello, Rachel. I'm very well. I had a kind of mild version of the virus 11 days ago with some fever and coughing. I still cough a little, but it was globally okay. You know, I could stand and keep working, you know, so no real problem. So I hope most of the people we know will have that mild version, and hopefully that will save them from catching it again, you know, when everybody will be able to go out.
Absolutely. Well, you look very well, Serge, and thank you for sharing that with our listeners, because I think everybody's very, very worried about the situation at the moment. So I'd love to know, you're an entrepreneur and a leader in financial services, and I'd love to know a little bit more about you and your story. So could you tell our listeners a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm the happy father of two girls, and even a grandfather of one little boy. I started in Luxembourg in '85.
Wow, you don't look old enough. You
Very
don't
long
look
time
old
ago.
enough.
So thank you. But I started in '85 in Luxembourg just by chance. You know, I was born in Metz on the other side of the border. I studied in Paris and after in the US. And when I came back, I was with my dad visiting a bank in Luxembourg, and my dad said, "Why you don't ask for a job here?" And I said, "I don't want to work in Luxembourg, and I don't want to work for a bank." I knew what a bank was like, kind of, because I had traineeship during the summers at Merrill Lynch. But frankly, I wanted to work in international trade, to travel the world. And I thought that working in a bank in Luxembourg would keep me in a very small country and in an area I didn't like. But I took the job because it was well paid. I thought I was going to stay for 2 months, and it was 35 years ago.
Wow.
And I'm so happy I made that choice, which was not really, a choice. It was just by chance.
Wow.
So I started with that bank, and Credit Bank in Luxembourg. The market was so, incredibly busy and incredibly growing, that there were so many opportunities for people who wanted to work hard. And so after a few years in the bank working, in different areas, corporate finance, corporate trust and agencies, selling our services all over the world, I started working for the sister company of the bank that was the trust company of the bank. And the trust company of the bank is the root of what is called today IQ-EQ. So I started there as being head of advisory services and selling Luxembourg holding companies to international families and large corporates. And in '98, the bank decided to sell the business. We couldn't do a management buyout, so we had a wonderful white knight, was called Arthur Andersen at the time.
Right.
Norbert Berker came and bought the business, and my boss and I became co-CEO of the business. And 2 years after, we bought the business from Arthur Andersen because there were conflict of interest, and we wanted to work side by side with Andersen. And unfortunately, you know what happened. Andersen disappeared, and we had to manage our own future. We grew the business quite a lot as an independent player, but we had a view that we needed to consolidate the market in Luxembourg, because we wanted to first to start to do fund administration. So we were chartered accountants at the time. And so in order to do it, we wanted to have the backup of a bank. And so we were acquired by Sal Oppenheim. During 5 years, we consolidated the Luxembourg market. We had a lot of growth. And unfortunately, the bank was almost bankrupt after the crisis. So I went to see them and asked, the bank and Deutsche Bank that was chosen to take them over, to buy the business back from them. And so we bought the business back from them with BIP in Luxembourg, the investment fund. We made it in only 3 weeks with a team of managers from what was called at the time SDG, and from that we made the second operation, the second MBO with Cobepa in Belgium. And with Cobepa, we wanted to become a European player. So I grew the business in the Netherlands by first organic growth and after making 2 very nice acquisitions there, because my biggest competitors at the time were the Dutch players. And so we wanted also to be present there. And that was in 2010. And we were with Cobepa for 5 years. But we had other ambitions to become a world player. So what we did, I introduced to Cobepa another investment fund, Astok Partners. And we made a third LBO on the shares of the company. And since then, since 2015, I've made 14 acquisitions. And now we are number 4 in the world in investor services.
Wow, that's a big story. So I'm really curious to know, as an entrepreneur in financial services and a leader, what does it take and what are the traits that are needed? What are the traits that you have that have taken you on this journey?
I think everything is in the entrepreneurial spirit. You need to be hungry and you need to be someone who acts, and those are maybe, 2 of the most important traits I have. I love to act, to take decisions. I'm not a spiritual leader. I'm an acting leader. So my thing is really, I love to build and to also have a positive impact on society, and on people. So I think this is very important. And in order to do this, you need to have, to be part of the global ecosystem. That's why, I share my time between, my companies, also very active in professional associations. I'm the chairman of 3 professional associations. The Association of the Luxembourg Alternative Asset Administrators Association, the Investment Facilitation Forum, and also the Luxembourg Association for Family Offices. So this is, I think, something which is very important, because you cannot only care about your business, you have to care about the industry as a whole, in your main market, but also everywhere.
And is there enough care about the industry, Serge?
I think you can always wish to have more from the different players in the ecosystem, but I think there is definitely, in Luxembourg in particular, the government understands that we are a very important link into the ecosystem of private equity and real estate investment. So we are the administrators of that industry. And we do contribute to more than 1 billion of the state revenue with direct and indirect taxes, in what we do. So this is very important. And I understand that, we know that the government understands this, because I'm not part of the Haut Comité de la Place Financière, with the Minister of Finance, in order to advise the ministry on new regulations and new laws, which help Luxembourg, staying at the forefront of this private equity and real estate world ecosystems.
Absolutely. So I'd love to bring the conversation back to you, if I may, Serge. And I'd love to ask you, who would be the most inspiring person in financial services, as a financial services leader, that might have inspired you in your own career to date?
It's not an easy answer for me because I was never infatuated, when I was young or even now. I was never, into, an incredible sports person or singer or performer or anything. However, I must say that a few people have inspired me to become the leader I am now. One of them, a cousin of my dad who was in the US. And when I studied in the US, the guy used to work for one of the big US broker, used to work for the wealthiest person of this world. And I came from Metz, a small city, never met anyone wealthy, didn't travel too much. And when I arrived in New York, meeting, my cousin, who was much older than I was, and meeting some of his clients at the parties he was giving in his apartment on Park Avenue, gave me really the drive to first, gave me the idea that there was something else, and gave me the drive to succeed and to be an entrepreneur, really. So, his name is Larry. It was Larry. He died, unfortunately, 2 years ago, but he was really inspirational to me. Among the other people I met, I think I take, from every meeting I have and every person I meet, I think I'm every time more smart, smarter. I really learn from everyone. That's why I never refuse a meeting almost, because I think you can learn so much, from meeting other people and seeing them, acting in life. And so there are people like this, I can name, Norbert Becker, who was really inspirational to me. He was my boss at the time of Henderson. And he's such an entrepreneur. I think, he brings Luxembourg to a different stage, and he's really impressive.
Absolutely. His reputation precedes him. I always remember hearing about Norbert Becker and Mark Toulouse, and we all know what happened to Mark Toulouse.
Yes.
So I'd love to ask you about, in your opinion, what would be a game changer as an entrepreneur and somebody who's really, really creative and has this incredible growth mindset? What would be a game changer that would make financial services better?
I think, we can always speak of digitalization, and definitely that's the name of the game. But I think at the same time, you need digitalization in the financial industry, especially because there is a change of generation, in terms of who the investors are and who the players are in the industry. But at the same time, I think you need very personal services. So you would need both. So for, basic solutions, you need digitalization, but you need also the personal touch. And I think one cannot go without the other. And, that's what we have been doing at IQEQ, and where our names come from, is there. We need the technical knowledge, and we need to be more and more sophisticated in terms of technical knowledge and technical solutions, IT and software solutions. At the same time, the personal relationship and the understanding of our clients, the EQ part, emotional quotient, is so important. And very often in the financial industry, people do not think it's important, but I think it's vital.
So what you're talking about is how important being human is in financial services.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is, as important as in any other industry, and especially, in times we are experiencing now, this is terrible plague, being human and having personal connections you know, taking the time to reconnect with people. At that time, you know, I'm always working on new acquisitions for the group because, I mean, we need new services or new geographies. And this morning I had a VC call with a guy, you know, who, I mean, he was so happy I was reaching out to him, you know. He was so happy because, you know, people only think about business. And you need to be human. You know, I mean, it's very important to have a personal relationship with people. Helps so much.
Which leads me nicely onto your leadership style. For those listeners who listen to Flex in the City, they'll know that I do a little bit of research on the people that I'm interviewing. And I asked a few people about your own leadership style, Serge. And the words that I was told were that you are human, that you are transformational, and that you are energetic. Do those words resonate?
Yeah, they do resonate. I mean, human, I hope I am, and I think I am very human. Transformational, I must say that I have so much transformed my organization every 5 years, you know, and this is, I mean, it has nothing to do with what it was. Not the same type of clients, not the same type of solutions. You know, it used to be a very local player, now it's international. And this is not the end. I mean, I'm very ambitious and I want to go forward, you know, because I think without projects, you die. So I have a lot of projects still for my business. The other adjective was
energetic.
Energetic. Yes, I think I'm energetic. As I told you, I like to act. You know, I love to have discussions, but not the discussions for the sake of discussions. I want to have decisions and to act on them. And if I could tell you about my leadership style, is more like you know, the difference between certain different countries in terms of the army. I'm like in the Israeli army, the general, I mean, is in the front and fights first, you know. And this is, I mean, what is the success of the Israeli army? And that's the way I do, you know. I'm still, you know, I'm the executive chairman, the founder of the group and the executive chairman. So I'm much more on the strategy and on the acquisition, on non-organic growth for the time being. But at the same time, I'm still there to incentivize people to find new solutions myself, to still sit on the board of directors of a few important clients, meet them or meet even prospects, you know, being very active and being at the front of what we do.
So how would you describe, in a few words, the culture of IQ-EQ?
I think it's a very entrepreneurial culture, you know, because what we do, even when we acquire businesses, in fact, it's not the businesses we acquire. It's, I mean, we make sure that we merge with other entrepreneurs. And those guys are there and are going to have the capacity to develop themselves and continue developing their business within the group. This is very important. So it's really, I mean, the mentality is very entrepreneurial. I think we have three important values in the group, which are authenticity, to be bold, and to be collaborative. And you know, it says all, you know, and we try to make sure that people, you know, I mean, you can change the competencies of people, but you cannot change their values, so, or their way of behavior. So it's very important that when we hire people or when we make acquisitions, we are certain that we share the same values. And the values are not the one that everybody says, you know, client first. Hopefully we have our clients and our people first, but this is too easy. You know, we need to share the real values. And I think a lot is also in our name, you know, as I mentioned, IQ-EQ. You know, we want people with the two sides of the brain.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what skills or behaviors or competencies do you think are needed in financial services now and in the next 5 years, Serge?
I think the competencies, and at least, I mean, on the leadership side, are the same. You need to have some, the leader needs to have a purpose for the organization, needs to have a vision, and show leadership. This is very important. But also in 5 years, you will need to have adaptability. So it's the same, I cannot tell you what will be the future, but I think we need to always be prepared to be flexible and to make sure that we are going to be according to, what is going to be the state of the market at that time in very sustainable businesses. A few years ago, for example, the industry was heavily investing in multinational corporations' services. And now you can imagine what's happening with BEPS and anti-avoidance regulations. It's very difficult to service those large multinationals because they do not set up anymore holding companies without substance, in the different countries, only for tax purposes. I was convinced of this. And so my aim was, a few years ago, to completely transform the client mix and to be much more working on asset managers, private equity and real estate and debt, private debt asset managers, and very big family offices. And now our group is mostly, taking its revenues from those two categories. And so we have a very sustainable business. So we look at the future in this way, but in 5 years, I think a leader will need also to think in a very sustainable way for the future and being very flexible. Because sometimes, look at what happened. That black swan for the COVID, nobody knew. And it's going to, for the people who have a short-term view, everybody asks me all the time, oh, when are you going to sell your business again? So can you imagine if I had, built the whole business to be sold in, 8 months, and you miss that opportunity because of an external event, you can be dead.
Yeah. So constant adaptability.
Yes, constant adaptability. And second, always look at the long term.
And are they the pieces of advice you would give to a young financial services manager starting his or her career in the industry? Is there any other advice that you'd give to them?
Maybe an advice that I apply to myself is, as I told you, never refuse a meeting. There are so many people who feel they are too important. They don't accept meetings. They don't want even to meet someone who is a salesperson because they think, it's not for them. For sure, I'm not going to meet twice, someone who wants to sell me copy machines, these kind of things. But, from everyone you learn. And this morning, I was doing mentoring at a Turkish student at the wealth management program of the Luxembourg University over the phone. And after I was with one of my peers, a guy who is the CEO and the owner of a top business in Europe. So it's very different. And frankly, I enjoy it. And so, there are so many people who don't have the same responsibilities, but do not spend the time because they think they are too important for meeting new people. I think they are wrong. So my advice would be meet new people, learn from them, be very open, and help others, because the best chance they can have is to be a chance for the others.
So as you're so positive and energetic, is there anything that prevents you from sleeping at night?
There is an old joke about it. There is the guy who turns and turns in his bed. It's 4 o'clock in the morning, and he cannot sleep at all. So his wife asked him, what's happening? He said, I have my meeting with my friend Paul tomorrow, and I owe him money, and I don't have the money. What can I do? I can't sleep. It's terrible. So his wife takes the phone, rings Paul, and after 10 rings, he answers. He's completely asleep. And she says, Paul, Maurice owes you money. You have a meeting with him tomorrow morning at 9. He said, yes. Okay, he doesn't have the money. Good night. And she hangs up, goes to her husband and says, now he can sleep. So now go to sleep. So that's, so when I have a problem, I try to either to solve it or for someone else to have the problem.
Yeah, that's good advice. Very good advice. So Serge, I know one of your big pastimes is martial arts. So what benefits has martial arts brought you as a leader in financial services, and why?
I think, in general, sports are very good, for the people who can do sports. They are very good for their overall life, and the way they behave. It gives you confidence, it gives you, stamina, and that's very good. But I think martial arts are very special. First of all, it's not a team play. So you cannot say, it helps me being a team player. That's not true. But I think you need to be extremely focused when you do martial arts. It's not only being a fighter, because being a fighter, there are many people who are very aggressive and they think they would be good, but it doesn't work. You need to be extremely focused. You need to be hardworking, and I've been hardworking all my life. And I think it comes also from the martial arts. And I think it helps. Indeed, it helped me quite a lot, I must say. And I have one of my favorite sentences, which is the way of the warrior is resolute acceptance of death.
Ooh, I like it. That's a powerful phrase, isn't it?
Yeah, it was
Very
from a
powerful.
samurai from the 16th century.
Wow.
It's one of my favorite sentences.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And your other pastime, I understand, which is one that I believe you share with me, is art.
Mm-hmm.
Who's your
That's
favorite
true.
artist and why?
I'm not an artist at all. I have no skills at all. But I do collect mostly painting and sculpture. I'm quite eclectic, but those last years I've been very much into contemporary art and mostly in Afro-Americans artists. So a few of my favorite artists are, for example, Jean-Michel Basquiat.
Jean-Michel Basquiat's one of my favorites too. Yeah.
So it's one of my favorite artists, but also young ones like Sunhouse and others. So I love this.
What is it about it you love?
I love the disruption, of contemporary art. I don't like everything, but I like the way, art always disrupts and transforms society.
Which leads me beautifully on to my last question to you, Serge. If you were disrupting financial services, what would the future look like?
Frankly, I don't know what the future is going to be like. But what I know from now on, there is going to be more and more transparency. That's for sure. Because the young generations, they want transparency. They want transparency for everything in terms of information. They want transparency on the impact on society of what the investment professionals have. Everyone speaks of ESG very often. This is full greenwashing, but I think, it's not only everything about the environment. It's mostly to make sure the people, in the future, won't accept that any harm is being made on the society in general. So they want to be sure that the people are conscious of this, and that they will, have the right information in order to avoid to harm society. And we at IQEQ, we are more and more advising people on everything about ESG, anti-corruption, anti-money laundering, to make sure that the private equity funds are going to be fully compliant, even the one investing in emerging markets, where it's a little more difficult. And I think it's a demand from the investors. We see it from the very big family offices when there is a change of generation, and everyone is going to be part of that. And the people who are not going to be part of that are going to be out of the market.
Absolutely. Serge, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on Flex in the City this afternoon, especially you having been ill recently. It's been a joy speaking to you, and you're a perfect leader for Flex in the City. Thank you so much for joining us.
Many thanks, Rachel. It was a pleasure.